It's the championship game of the Big Four tournament. The Tar Heels of North Carolina versus the Deacons of Wake Forest. Brought to you. Welcome to the Big Four, the final edition. It's a packed house here at the Greensboro Coliseum. I'm Jim Thacker with Billy Packer and Coach Mose McKinney. And we have a natural rivalry, of course, for this one, no matter who it played. North Carolina ranked 10th against Wake Forest. And Billy, we start with Wake, I guess, by saying Frank Johnson's back.
Well, he is back, Jim. Everybody else is back, too, and that's interesting. And normally when you bring on a new player, he's a freshman. You got to blend him in the lineup. In this case, Frank Johnson, the old veteran and a great basketball player. And
North Carolina's got Olympian Al Wood, but a lot of missing faces.
Well, they've got a lot of reserves that they're going to come off that bench like Perkins and Daugherty. And, of course, they lost a good ball club, the entire ball club. But you'd never know it, Jim. They're undefeated.
All right, no love lost between these two. We'll have our scouting report in just a moment, but first, this message. On our scouting report, we'll look at the point guards. This might be one spot where North Carolina is vulnerable with Jimmy Black.
Well, he's a fine basketball player, Jim, and I know he's thankful to be playing because he had a serious accident this past summer and came within just a fraction of being paralyzed for the rest of his life. And he's so thankful to be out there. And, of course, they're going to depend on him. He's going to be the man that runs the four corners for Dean Smith and the key to their whole offense.
Filling the big shoes left vacant by the departure of Dave Cole-Scott. And, of course, the long line that goes back to Phil Ford and many more. So that'll be a position that's in the limelight very much for North Carolina. Jimmy Black. They got Matt Daugherty, the freshman, and, of course, Braddock to back him up. And, of course, for Wake Forest, they're in great shape in this particular spot because the man we mentioned, Frank Johnson, returns.
Well, he returns, Jim. I watched him play in the Olympic trials this year, and had it not been for Darnell Valentine and Isaiah Thomas, this guy would have made the Olympic team. He's back. He's back at full strength, and he's the leader that Wake Forest has really lacked last year with a young front line of Morgan, Rogers, and Johnstone. You can see him coming in here. He handles the ball. He's got quickness. He knows how to play the game. He plays with a great deal of enthusiasm and brings a great deal of confidence to this lineup, something that certainly was lacking at times last year.
And tonight he's going to set a very unique record.
Well, a very unique record indeed. He's going to be starting a ball game tonight, his 10th in Big Four competition.
That's right. He played 3 years as a starter, played 2 Big Four tournament games last year. That was before his preseason injury forced him to give up the rest of the season on hardship. And so here he is back in senior year. That's our scouting report. Back with the starting lineups after tonight. This message. North Carolina comes in this game ranked as the nation's number 10 team in the major polls. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the favorite. Let's get the player introductions now from Larry Dunlap.
Welcome to the Greensboro Coliseum for the championship game of the 11th and final Big Four basketball tournament. Here now are the starting lineups for the Deacons of Wake Forest and the North Carolina Tar Heels. The forwards, number 30, Alvis Rogers. Number 30, Al Wood. Number 35, Guy Morgan. Number 52, James Worthy. The centers, number 54, Jim Johnstone. Number 34, Pete Budko. The guards, number 14, Frank Johnson. Number 11, Mike Pepper. Number 44, Mike Helms. And number 21, Jimmy Black. The Deacons are coached by Carl Tacey, the Tar Heels by Dean Smith.
20th year of coaching for Dean Smith, all of them at North Carolina, and of course has had a great year. Wake Forest, coached by Carl Tacey. Quiet Carl, they used to call him, and great tactician. This is a team that was just sensational last night. They defeated North Carolina State by 30 points. That was within 1 point of the all-time margin of victory in a Big Four tournament game. 87-57, while North Carolina had to fight right to the wire to defeat Duke 78-76.
Jim, you know, an early season tournament like this in the past has proved sometimes to be very interesting to the fans as to what it means for the rest of the year. In my estimation, this is a pivotal game for Wake Forest as opposed to Carolina in this respect. They think they're a lot better ball club with Frank Johnson back in the lineup. Whether they are or not has to be proven against a quality team like North Carolina. North Carolina came out of the chute showing what they could do up in Alaska. A lot of proven basketball players, even though some didn't have a lot of playing time last year.
It was evident last night, Jim, that North Carolina, Wake Forest, is playing to win, and it seemed to me last year they were playing to keep from losing.
Tip control by the Deacons. This is Frank Johnson, so Wake Forest will get a chance to strike first. North Carolina, man-for-man defense, striking, overplaying a lot. High post here, and a good bounce pass to Johnstone, picked up by Wood. And North Carolina will come down with no score. When the opening minute of play, this is for the Big Four championship, the final 9. Man-for-man defense. No, Wake Forest coming to the whole swing zone. Ball away by Worthy. Tipped in by Butko.
I think Johnstone actually got his hands on the ball. Butko is a very deceiving leaper. He gets off the ground in a hurry. Good shot blocker.
He moved up from the blue team. That's a good position.
North Carolina up by 2.
And the man overplayed.
Wide open. That's Harper.
He went the wrong way. Had he gone the other side, he could have forced him to the middle a little bit, but he gave him the home hole.
Score tied at 2. North Carolina in the white. Wake Forest, 10 to go.
You notice Johnstone's not playing Butko when he leaves the 15-foot area.
Kind of a combination defense, isn't it, Bill?
They're playing man-to-man. They like to come down, show the zone the first time down the floor, and go man-to-man. So they're playing straight man right now.
North Carolina trying to work it inside to Wood. That's Wood bouncing around. Butko another tip. Worthy's got it for North Carolina. They've been tough on the offensive boards here in the opening minute. Walker.
James Worthy can't believe that call. I can't either.
Dean Smith asking for something from his team, getting into a little bit more motion perhaps just from that signal. Now Frank Johnson. There's Johnson pointing to his eyes. What's he saying?
Well, what he's showing in that North Carolina down the other end of the floor, Jim, standing out in the zone. Now, very seldom you see Dean Smith go this way that early. Frank recognized it right away. 2-3 zone.
Followed by Rogers. Rebound will come outside of North Carolina. Mike Pepper coming down on Helms. 2-2. The score is tied. These two teams have played 3 times before in the Big Four. 4 times, actually, splitting even twice. Played once in the final. Worthy on the inside. And that was Butko up over everybody, losing it out of bounds. It'll go to Wake Forest with a tie score, and we've played 2 minutes. A little bit of a slow start here.
But I think both of these people going out to face each other. I think we have 2 teams here, Jen, that's certainly capable of being in the NCAA Final 48. And it's the first time they're going after each other, and it means a lot to establish some kind of tempo.
Saw the Carl Tasty record. Here goes Johnson driving. Walk at the Helms and walks.
I think he intended to pass all the time, but he didn't give it away until right at the end. It was too late.
Well, he got into a lot of heavy traffic there, and his passing lane might have been blocked off.
To be honest with you, I think he was expecting somebody to cut baseline, and everybody stood there and watched Frank.
Jimmy Black twisting on the inside. His pass is pulled off. Guy Morgan has it out of the air, was partially blocked. Quick move down. Here's Helms, who can fire. Rebound, Johnston inside, battled away and off the hands of Pepper. And it'll be Wake Forest ball for an inbounds play.
The way they're playing, you can tell both teams really and truly want this basketball game.
Jimmy Valvano probably watching this game wondering why some of those shots didn't go in that way last night.
On the double team, Mike Pepper just picked up a foul, reaching in for North Carolina. That's the first team foul. That's the first foul of the game, period.
This fellow, Guy Morgan, right here, has got a great pair of hands. Very deceiving player around the basket area. Good leaper. Can really catch the ball inside.
6'8" junior from Virginia Beach. Double team on the zone trap now by North Carolina. They go in and out of that trap, dropping back to a 2-3, or maybe just the inbounds pass. Score tied at 2 has been up there for a while. We played about 2 minutes now, the tie score.
I'm really surprised to see North Carolina go zone so early in the ball game because Wake has a good outside perimeter shooting team. They're just not hitting it now.
There's a tap by Rogers twice and out of bounds to Wake Forest.
Good offensive rebounding.
Wake Forest is handling them off the boards because that was 3 times. They got it back up there but couldn't get it to fall in.
Both teams undefeated. North Carolina ranked 10th is 5-0. Wake Forest not ranked yet, 3-0. Inside Morgan, pretty play.
2 men turned their back. Morgan slipped behind them.
First time Wake Forest has led 4-2 it is. They played about 3 minutes in the first half. Jimmy Black now setting up the play. No changes for either team. The line of Al Wood getting free. Finding Black. Has to have back it down. Intercepted by Rogers. Here comes Wake Forest on the break. Leading by 2. Johnson banking.
Bad shot.
Bad shot. Rebound down there by Rogers.
You know, I'm really surprised at the matchup down at the other end. Rogers is on Wood, and they have Morgan on Worthy. Of course, Rogers is a great athlete.
There's Rogers. And he's fouled by Wood.
That's the reason it didn't get to the basket.
First foul by Wood. Now some changes, and we're going to say two of the outstanding freshmen in the ACC for North Carolina. Right there is Sam Perkins on your right, and Matt Doherty came in to replace him. Both highly touted, highly recruited, and they have been outstanding thus far. Jimmy Braddock also comes in, so 3 new players in for North Carolina.
Jim, in last night's game, I thought Doherty, and I had seen him play in a lot of high school all-star games, and he's the kind of guy in the clutch wants the ball. And last night he did it, and I think he's not going to be a freshman very long.
How would you compare him to, say, a Jim Spanarkel who played at Duke?
I think he is a better athlete than Spanarkel, but he has that same caliber of mental play and mental toughness on the court.
All right, Alvis Rogers' second free throw. Wake's biggest lead, though, the miss even. It's 3 points now at 5-2. Wake a hustling man for man right now. Down low. There's Perkins, the left-hand hook.
He's going to be one of the great ones. Just put it down in your book. Sam Perkins.
5-4.
Beautiful
Johnson
pass.
open. Beautiful bounce pass is true.
Sensational. Only that way could he have gotten.
Boy, he put that ball right down the floor, bend that back over, and shut it right into it.
7-4. 3-point lead again by Wake Forest. And here's a whistle off the ball. A foul by Johnstone. Inside, keeping up with Perkins.
That's what you call getting the second one.
Carl Casey and Billy, those 3 wins have given him 124 career wins in Wake Forest, which puts him in second place. And you know who he passed last week?
I got it. Bones Arena.
Our good friend, Bones McKinney, whose team's won 122. And there's a fake, and it draws a foul from Helms.
If I stick around long enough, everybody will beat me, don't you think?
No way. Third place, not bad, Bones.
Good move right here by Jimmy Braddock. Good hard pump fake. Draws the foul. Good fake.
And we're getting a timeout here. Wake on top by 3 at this stop by 7-4 over North Carolina. Big 4 championship game. This is the final one of what has been a fixture now for the 11th year here in North Carolina, what the so-called Big 4 teams of the Atlantic Coast Conference from the state of North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, and Duke. Last night, North Carolina edged Duke by 2 points. And Wake Forest walloped NC State by 30. So here's the matchup for the championship. And Wake's off to a 7-4 lead in the opening minutes.
Wake playing the zone out of bounds, even on the sideline. See if they stay in it. Stay in the zone. Kind of a 1-3-1 with Frank Johnson out at the top.
Look at the new players here. There's Jimmy Braddock outside. He's a good shooter. Rebound. Al Wood on the inside. Up and he walked. Great defensive play in the middle. I didn't see the player, Billy, but the Wake players were up there.
Guy Morgan again. I think for the young players, if they'll keep their eye on Guy Morgan over the course of the year, they'll find out he very seldom commits himself by going in the air early on a fake. That's why he always has those hands up there defensively.
A little backcourt pressure by Jimmy Braddock, picking up Frank Johnson. But only passively, Johnson is expert at one-on-one. season player.
New offensive set. There's Glenn Mayers. He's playing as a freshman. Young in the ball game,
Young
too.
also Johnson way on the
Now, Frank
outside.
Johnson got that because he did something without the ball. You saw him pass to the right. He went to the other side. His man didn't follow him, and they swung the ball back to him.
Now Wake in a 1-3-1 zone, so they're switching around here.
They've got Young running the baseline, which puts a small man down there. Let's see what happens on the offensive rebound.
Worthy cuts on the inside for North Carolina. That's his first basket. Coming off perhaps his best game ever for North Carolina last night. There's the score, 3-point lead by Wake Forest. We've played a little over 5 minutes. 14:50 to go in the first half.
Look at that wing spread in the middle on Sam Perkins.
North Carolina playing more zone than I think we've seen them play at this stage of the year ever. They walk.
Are they respecting the quickness, you think, of Wake Forest? They were very quick last night against North Carolina State.
Well, they might be worried a little bit about the matchups inside with that quickness, and maybe also about Frank Johnson's ability to penetrate.
But let me say this. If you can't play good man for man, you'll never be a good zone defensive ball club.
9-6, 3-point lead by Wake Forest. Wake in the zone again, 1-3-1. Bad pass over the head of Braddock. A turnover to Wake Forest with a 3-point lead by the Deacons here in the first half. 14 minutes to go to halftime. Kind of a rubber game between these two. They played this is their 5th game in Big Four tournament competition. They won 2 apiece. But the big one, the championship game only played, was won by North Carolina. So Wake Forest trying to even that up.
Here's a man-to-man now, trapping whenever they get an opportunity.
Danny Young is a freshman player, 6'3" from Raleigh, North Carolina, number 20, and that's Frank Johnson. Johnson driving, puts it up over a man, and there's Morgan on the follow. Great follow shot by Guy Morgan on the 2-hand slam.
I would say Dean Smith would be very concerned about Wake Forest's ability to get offensive rebounds early here in the first half.
Not 1 and 2, but sometimes 3, Billy.
That's up.
Ludko pass deflected, but Braddock runs it down between the circuit. 11-6, 5-point lead by Wake Forest.
Al Wood's open if they can get him the ball.
There he is. Good shooting touch, as you know. Here's Sam Perkins.
Now, Sam's isn't going to take it from out there, I don't believe.
He's a pretty good shooter, Coach.
I didn't like it last night. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, last year we bragged on Worthy in the first game, and then when we were on television, he played poorly.
Another turnover to Wake Forest. Deacons have a chance to go by 7 points. Johnson. 7-point lead by the Deacons, 13-6. And somewhat the same pattern they followed last night when they very quickly took the lead over NC State. In that instance, they never gave it up.
They're playing for real.
I think they're
look with confidence.
They're an explosive team. They've got a lot of firepower out there.
North Carolina looked tentative to you, Bill. There's the pass from the inside to Budko, and he's fouled on the play. Personal foul by Danny Young. First one on Young. Team foul number 3 against Wake Forest. Jimmy Black returns at point guard, replacing Braddock.
But Pete Budko really did a great job leaping up to catch that last pass that went inside. Watch it right here. Now, this is a real fine effort. Good move by Doherty to keep control of the ball. Now watch this effort right here. Boy, he really went up in the air. Excellent play.
He's a tremendous leaper, just under 6'9", but he's probably the best shot blocker on the North Carolina team. Split time last year with Wolf and Yoniker at center. Now he's back sharing that spot with Sam Perkins, sometimes Worthy. And a foul by Al Wood will be his second one.
And Wood got in trouble last night early on fouls, and it hurt North Carolina.
Wood's the leading scorer this year for North Carolina, 16.4. There's Worthy. Worthy is coming off the broken ankle. He suffered last year after 12 starts, of which he was the leading rebounder for the North Carolina team. Outstanding sophomore from Gastonia, North Carolina.
Jim, again, the fundamentals of Guy Morgan that time with an excellent block out on the boards was the fellow that created the foul by Wood.
Zone trap now by North Carolina, and recognized immediately by Wake Forest. Young under, and there's Morgan open.
He's tough.
They're hitting a free man every time.
6 points for Morgan, 8-point lead now, 15-7. North Carolina, Perkins gets the drop for North Carolina.
Slipped in on the blind side.
You notice he did not put the ball on the floor, just turned around and put it right up.
He's some athlete. 15-9, 6-point lead Wake Forest. There's a bat away, and it goes over to North Carolina. Chuck Dobbs down the lineup here for Carl Tacey's Deacons. Carl a little upset at that call, but it was touched by one of his own players, apparently.
He didn't like the fact that a man made a steal coming from behind. Normally, an official will call that a foul.
Now Doherty feeds inside position by Perkins, and he was pushed off. The foul will be on Rogers. Perkins had got the inside position on Rogers. Rogers maybe a little bit in frustration got the push. Let's see if we can see it.
One of the things that obviously everybody will recognize about Sam Perkins are the long arms that he has. I don't think I've ever seen a basketball player, Coach, maybe not Clifton as far as the proportion to his body, but his hands, his wrists actually are below his pants. I mean, he really has some long arms, and yet he's 6'10" also, so he's probably playing about 7'1".
Someone said 7'2", Billy. That's right.
There's Doherty, the other freshman, hitting the outside. 15-11. North Carolina fighting back now, and a double team here on Frank Johnson.
Somebody's going to be open inside.
Pass to Morgan, batted out by North Carolina.
Frank Johnson's the kind of fellow with all his experience, so when they double him up, he'll look for the pass inside.
All right, another timeout is called here in the finals of the Big Four Championship. 11:46 to go on the half. Wake leads 15-11.
Here we're going to see Frank Johnson, real veteran basketball player, knows what he's doing out there. Putting the ball up inside. There's Butko showing what outstanding shot blocking ability he has. But here Wake Forest. Now you see there are 3 Wake Forest fellows with inside position. Dean Smith wouldn't like that replay at all. Of course, if you're Carl Tacey, you got to love it.
And especially the way Guy Morgan stationed himself. This telecast is presented by the authority of the Atlantic Coast Conference and the C.D. Chesley Company. And the use of this program without written consent is prohibited. Announcers on this program have been approved and contracted for by the C.D. Chesley Company. 4-point lead by Wake Forest. They're led by 8. North Carolina's cut it in half. Tar Heels the man-for-man defense right now. Frank Johnson looking over the field. That's Danny Young now, the other guard, a freshman. Rogers inside. Dobbs fakes and hits.
Guy Rogers has developed that little bounce pass inside. Just an excellent feat.
17-11. He hit Johnstone with 2 beauties last night in their first-round victory over NC State.
You notice every one of them, Jim, are bounce passes.
Oh, beautiful play that time.
To Perkins.
You know, that's the old lob. We haven't seen a big fella throw a lob any better than that. James Worthy, a complete basketball player.
17-13. Back to 4 points. Johnson blocked and fouled by Black. Jimmy Black picks up his first foul. 4th team foul now against North Carolina. Thinks this will be a shooting foul here for Frank Johnson.
You know, just trying to think, Jim, Dean Smith's such a smart basketball coach, and why North Carolina went to zone so early. He may feel that Jimmy Black is the only guy capable of handling Frank Johnson in the man-to-man. His other point guards really aren't that quick defensively, and he didn't want Black to get in a situation where he's got a lot of foul troubles early in the ball game, so that may be one of the reasons.
That's certainly a good point. Frank Johnson at the line. Catalyst of this team for Wake Forest, and perhaps holds the key. What may be a great shot.
Here, Jim, we're seeing for the first time a new rule in basketball this year, in collegiate basketball. The fellas can go into that lane as soon as the ball leaves the shooter's hand. So there'll be some real interesting rebounding contact this year off the foul shot.
6-point lead for Wake Forest. 19-13. We're coming to the midway point of the first half. Al Wood returns, partially blocked, but foul on the play. I think it's going to be on Rogers. 2 shots coming to Al Wood.
You'll see after Wood misses the shot, 3 fellas went up for a rebound. They must have been 2 feet over the basket. Worthy and was up there along with Perkins and Morgan. It's amazing how high these young fellas can get up.
After that little experience there, if I were Wake Forest, I don't believe I'd pick him up full court.
Remember Al Wood and all the trouble he had with his free throwing, and then he's kind of got it ironed out, and now he's missed his first one here tonight.
He shoots his free throw very flat, Jim, as opposed to his jump shot. He's such a pure shooter, he never should have trouble from that foul line.
Now here's Frank Johnson moving on Jimmy Black. Wake sets up against the man-for-man. Danny Young. Come over the baseline. He spots Morgan open. Rebound off by James Worthy. Worthy is fouled back backcourt, and really calling him close.
When James Worthy gets his hands on the ball, it's all over. He is an outstanding rebounder.
There's no point in trying to take it away from him because with his hands, he's got the ball completely covered.
I think this fella right here is one of the great players in the country. You see, Alvis Rogers, a very strong fella, came down on his wrist, and Worthy still had control of the ball.
Second foul on Alvis Rogers. 15 foul against 16 fouls now against Wake Forest.
Look at that catch.
Inside. Unbelievable. Sam Perkins, a freshman from Latham, New York.
Great catch.
15. North Carolina's cut it to 4, and Perkins is coming to really put some firepower into the North Carolina team.
Trying to keep James Black off of Frank Johnson. Carl Tacey said, keep the hands off. The Frank Johnson kid, he can get on you a little bit.
Remember the hands-off or the hands-on rule last year? They were really putting some teeth into that rule, and maybe they have to remind some of the players.
I always said, don't warn them. That's not the thing. Call it.
Full court pressure. That was Jimmy Black picked that ball up after the basket and scored. That's what the warning was about in that particular instance. Threw hands on Morgan. Leads under the Johnstone. Turning hook.
That's sensational.
That was a great pass by Morgan. Again, a fundamentally very sound. Excellent half hook. Almost a Mike Jaminski type shot by Johnstone.
21-15, 6-point lead by Wake Forest. They go inside to Worthy this time. Great move by Worthy. Put up by Perkins, and he's fouled.
Oh, man.
Perkins really is putting some action into the game for North Carolina. Jim Johnstone picks up his second personal foul, and Perkins is creating some things.
It's a beautiful move. Now watch Guy Morgan on the block. He timed that perfectly. Made a good block on the first play. Now here comes Perkins in. He's going to go back up. Morgan tries to go with him. Johnstone gets him on the arm. Bones, do you ever watch Plastic Man on Saturday mornings? You know who Plastic Man, the guy whose arms stretch out? That's what Perkins reminds me of. The arms just keep right on going.
Sort of sky-hooked it.
Yep.
Oh, look at that percentage. He's hitting 2 out of every 3 shots he takes from the floor.
I still wonder about that touch on the outside, Billy.
Out to Alvis Rogers, and here comes Wake Forest now, leading by 5, 21-16. The biggest lead was 8 points.
Wake Forest throws a lot of real nice bounce passes into that post.
They've got to. Anything inside the foul line should be a bounce pass, and that's the way they've executed so well tonight.
Playing without Frank Johnson right now. He's getting a little rest. Andy Young and Mike Helms, the guards for Wake Forest.
And Young will be tough.
And a block down by Pepper. Broke up that passing lane nicely and plugged up the hole. Here comes Will Singleton in for the first time. He was sensational last year coming off the bench. 6'6" senior now from Sumter, South Carolina. He's played in all 3 games for Wake Forest. Scored only 7 points, but he has 5 rebounds.
Jim, I think this is the deepest Wake Forest basketball team of all time. I think they have more quality players than Wake Forest has ever had before.
That kid could shoot right there. Mike Helms. Boy, he hit about 4 or 5 in a row from that spot last night and broke open the game early against North Carolina State. 23-16 here, 7-point lead over North Carolina. Sam Perkins. Put up by Black on a double fake and then pulled down by Rogers.
Oh, the master got it.
Boy, Rogers is a ferocious rebounder when he grabs it like that.
Singleton's a good leaper also. He didn't want any part of that elbow.
And here we've got a whistle off the ball. A foul's on Perkins. First foul on Sam Perkins. That was away from the ball. That's a good look at the young guy. 6'9", freshman with those arms. As Billy Packer said, he plays with about 7'2" and up. Chris Brust comes in, 6'8.5", junior from Babylon, New York.
It's the whole blue team, big blue team. Jimmy Braddock's still on that club this year, although he plays also with the other group. They'll be coming in for a little shock treatment here for a few minutes, but Wake Forest, being a deep club, also has got Frank Johnson on the bench, so they get an opportunity to rest some people.
I'd leave my good
in there. Excuse me, Bones.
I'd leave my good ball club in there because the way they're playing, they'll cream that club.
There's Singleton on the follow, blocked out of bounds. I think it was blocked there by Jeb Barlow. Let's get these blue players for you. Jeb Barlow, number 43, is a junior from Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina. Cecil Exum, a 6'6" freshman, the number 50. Also, there's Eric Kenny. There's a shot on the outside by Young. Danny Young with his first basketball Wake Forest.
He looks great to me. He's going to be a fun basketball player. Evidently, they have faith in him.
And they've got Scott Davis, another freshman guard that's really an outstanding player. Of course, on the bench with a cast on his leg, but they are really a deep club.
Here goes Braddock on the fake. Will not count. He walks. Traveling by Braddock erases that. Dean Smith is upset. The basket's going to be not allowed, and Wake Forest will come down with a 9-point lead.
What he's doing right there, Jim, he's trying to get something going on his ball club, and he'd like to get a little control over one of those Southwest Conference officials.
Well, there's North Carolina. There's the turnover picture. North Carolina was a zone. Wake Forest just held the ball outside. They wanted to get into the man-for-man. North Carolina, the leading trailing team, had to come out. Rogers fighting inside, and he won.
And Dean Smith just got a walking call there.
That basket won't count. 9-point lead. Right here with 7 minutes and 39 seconds to go in the first half. Timeout on the court. There's the score.
Many aspects of coaching. I don't think there was a walk-in violation on that play at all, but what happens is Dean Smith right on the top of his game down the other end of the court. A basket was taken away on a walk-in violation. He made it known that he was very unhappy with it. Right down the court the next time. Officials become a little bit more aware. Say, I'll keep my eye on that traveling call, and he picked it up.
Frontline players are back in for North Carolina. Jimmy Black.
Dean must have heard you, Bones.
Mike Tupper of the guards. Pete Butko at center, and the forwards James Worthy and Al Wood. So the front line's back in. This is the starting five. North Carolina broken up by Wake Forest. Here come the Deacons. That was Singleton.
I think I'm as impressed with Wake Forest defense as I am with their offense.
Helms inside, and rebound off by Al Wood. Good outlet pass to Jimmy Black. Wake Forest back nicely on defense. Good point, Bones, as Wake Forest right back there on the transition. Al Wood on the fake gets free. Boy, he is some shooter. Al Wood of the U.S. Olympic team last year. Even though it didn't play in the games, they had quite a team against the NBA All-Stars.
See Frank Johnson getting ready to come back in the game. Good job by Danny Young to give him a rest. Nice pass.
Yep, and open is Johnstone, and there's a foul on the rebound by Singleton. And North Carolina now in a little bit of a rally right here because that puts the Tar Heels in the bonus free throw situation. Frank Johnson returning. Last year was to have been his final year, but he came up with an injury in preseason, sort of a pickup game. He tried to play with the pain, played 4 or 5 games, couldn't. And they got a hardship ruling, so he set out the rest of last year, and here he is.
Now here you see, Jim, the situation on the foul shot. The players in the lane area can go as soon as it leaves the hand of the shooter.
And there's another rule, Bill. Nobody's allowed back in those alleys.
That's right. Yeah, nobody can go on the foul line down the court extended to the end line. That takes all that cheating from in behind.
25-18, the score is 7-point lead here by Wake Forest.
Good job by Doherty on Rogers. Notice the respect that his teammates have for Frank Johnson. They throw it out. All of a sudden, everything seems calm. When he give him the ball, he gets it under control.
There's a good shooter, Helms. And inside, Rogers with a follow. He walks again. 2 walks by Rogers. Becoming a little frustrated.
Now Carl Tacey said, you know, and he knows exactly what happened. He's thinking of those calls before and how Dean got involved in the game. And you watch a counter move right here.
25-18, Wake Forest by 7. North Carolina a chance here to catch up a little bit.
What a play!
Driving, rebound, and there's a foul by Butko. Butko fouling Morgan. That's the first foul by Butko. On the rebound it was, and that's 16 fouls against North Carolina.
Look at this drive, though. This is a super pro drive. Only Dr. J does those kind of things. He did miss the shot, James Worthy, but a heck of a play. And there's Morgan again. Excellent position on the rebounding, but go over the back.
No shot here, but Wake Forest will be on the bonus here for the balance of this first half. We have 6 minutes to go till halftime. Low-scoring game with a 6-point lead by Wake Forest, 7-point, 25-18. And a foul, blocking by Wood is the third.
He's in trouble tonight again.
3 fouls on high-scoring Al Wood, the leading scorer for North Carolina.
Here's a case of playing defense with his hands and not his feet. Al Wood not getting over in the right position. See him starting to reach already instead of getting over in position. Picks up a cheap foul. He really hadn't had a tough one yet tonight, and he didn't last night.
How many times in a switch like that, though, do you see the man switching committed foul?
Right, he's got to go chest to chest and square up a little bit defensively.
There's Mike Helms, number 44's returned, and Frank Johnson now is at the line, 1-1.
You're talking about this foul line situation. I think they should be able to step in there because it's a cheap call. It always has been.
Getting a little bit more passive defensively.
As the freshman combination down the middle went Perkins, and he walks. And we've got a marathon going here, the walking marathon.
Well, Carl Tacey made everybody aware that it was 2-1 in favor of North Carolina on the walks, and he wanted another one.
You know, any good coach knows that he's not arguing over what's just been called. Just give me the next one.
Wake Forest leads 25-18. The Walks are tied at 2-2. 5.5 minutes to go in the first half. Yeah, boy, there was Johnston over on the inside. There he is, over Perkins. 8 points for Jim Johnstone. He's getting off to the great start that he had last year. Then he tailed off, remember? Doherty feeding
there he is.
To Perkins. I think he intercepted that pass.
I think he did, too. That ball was thrown so high, he never should have had a chance to get his hands on it.
I think Doherty was throwing it to another teammate deeper, and Perkins just went up and grabbed it like Willie Mays playing center field.
Can you wait for him to play against Sampson?
Well, that'll be something, won't it? I don't know. Sampson's a little bit ahead of it. Maybe ahead of the world, Bones, right now. 28-27, 27-18. This is the biggest lead. Wake Forest have had it twice now. What a pass inside to Rogers for blocking the foul on Mike Pepper. Boy, Rogers has made Wake Forest made some great bounce passes.
You'll see the pass that you're talking about sitting right down. Now, that fundamentally is so sound by Guy Morgan. Rogers also has made some good passes, and there's Pepper coming over the arm.
You have to work on things like that, and the difference between the two offenses, North Carolina is driving with the ball to get in that position, and Wake Forest is passing to get in that position, and that's a much better situation.
Here's a superb athlete, Alvis Rogers, 6'7", Washington, North Carolina, about 220 pounds. He was the leading scorer last night over state with 15 points.
You know, Jim, we all have to remember also that Rogers and Morgan and Johnstone, they've been starters now since their freshman year. They're veterans. This is no longer a group of rookies.
And all the mechanics back, and now they've got the heart back, and Frank Johnson, the guy who makes it go. Doherty under to Worthing, a block inside by Morgan again. Here's Johnson, great pass to Helm. And a foul on the play. What an assist by Morgan. There's what the guy does for you. Gave that pass at exactly the right time to Helms.
This basketball team is a good one. There's Guy Morgan again. Super block, excellent timing. Jim Johnstone grabs the ball off. Excellent outlet pass. This club is solid. Frank Johnson, watch him sit down and push that ball through. Two-handed chest pass. Good catch. That's a fast break you put on a highlight film right there.
You need to show that to youngsters. But let me say something about North Carolina. This is a young ball club. Their best ball club is a young ball club, and you got to remember that.
3-point play by Mike Helms. 14-point lead by Wake Forest. Biggest lead of the game. 4.5 minutes to go in the first half.
Wake Forest is playing a triangle and 2. They've got 3 fellas playing zone, 2 fellas playing man-to-man.
They've used this maneuver a lot.
Oh, yeah, they've used it a lot. North Carolina ought to pull it back out to find out what kind of defense they're in.
Get organized.
And as Bones pointed out, it's a very young team in North Carolina.
Weak side pass to Doherty, and Doherty fouled on the play by Johnstone. That Doherty is a cagey player, isn't he?
Very smart basketball.
Now, 3 fouls on Jim Johnstone. Now Wake Forest is in trouble. Well, we'd like to remind you that the Virginia-Duke game Friday night at 8 p.m. in Durham. That means that again, upset.
I think what he's upset about, Jim, is the fact that the whistle is attached to the timer's clock, again with that device, but the clock kept running. Now, last night, I think they had the same malfunction in the Duke-North Carolina game at the very end of the game.
And An innovation that was started in the Atlantic Coast Conference, officials' whistles, controlling the stopping and the starting of the time clock.
Those skeets to get it straightened out.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back and talk about our next game, which is Virginia Duke. Remember, it's 8 o'clock. So if you have tickets that say 9 o'clock, remember the true time is 8 o'clock Friday night. If you're not going to that game, join us. Our telecast begins 8 o'clock. We'll get another season of ACC basketball underway. These games are not official conference games, as I'm sure you know. Matt Doherty at the free throw line. He's another future superstar, I would say. Doherty, a freshman, plays like anything but. Last night, under pressure, hit 2 clutch free throws that decided that game. They're still having trouble with the clock?
Yeah, I think they are. Carl Casey wants to go down and get a little understanding also. We'll see if they go ahead and decide to allow the play to start, not tick off the clock for a second or two. Carl doesn't want to hear too much about that nonsense.
Okay, I'll watch the floor. You watch the clock, Bill. We'll find out. Carl Casey.
Look at Frank Johnson over there. Assistant coach right on the floor.
Frank doesn't want to miss out any of the conversation. They're talking there with Joe Forney, one of the officials from Springfield, Virginia. So Forney's explaining explaining everything here to Carl Casey. And Frank Johnson's third man in the group.
I'm very surprised that Dean Smith must have gotten his way because he's being very passive here. Normally, he wouldn't allow a guy like Frank Johnson to stick his nose in that conversation unless he'd already won the fight.
Well, they're going to get a huddle up here. So I think we're going to get a timeout with 3 minutes and 56 seconds to go in the first half. I'll come back on the floor.
I think Frank Johnson created his own timeout, said fellas. Let's go ahead and talk this one over while they're talking.
I thought at one time there it was unfair. Wake Forest had 3-1. Dean was almost up there, so it was 3-1.
Matt Doherty, young freshman from East Meadow, New York. Now we'll get the timeout here after the free throw. The fourth point by Doherty. Cuts the margin down, but Wake Forest still on top by 12.
Here's a pass inside, Jimmy Black. Good defensive positioning. Al Wood on the fake. Boy, he is deaf inside that foul line area. Look at that good position. Follows the shot right up. Excellent play. That happened quite a bit earlier, about a couple of minutes ago.
Billy gets the NBA All-Stars after making the U.S. Olympic team last year. That series they played, he hit over 60%, 63%, I think, from the floor. He is one amazing shooter. He's got to have one of the best shooting touches in college basketball this year, I would say. And he's had such a quick release.
Another thing about him, Jim, is he's very patient. He takes nothing but good shots. I understand they're going to allow the clock to run 5 seconds before they start it.
Well,
7 seconds now. That's why Dean Smith didn't care how many guys Wake put there. He already got the commitment for 7 seconds. He was happy. Asked Mike Krzyzewski last night when the same thing happened. He didn't get one.
He didn't get a half a second.
He didn't get a heartbeat.
32-20. 12-point lead by Wake Forest.
So you have as many good years as Dean has. You deserve
good pressure defense. Now Guy Rogers triple team and is batted out of bounds. Well, they had Rogers trapped. North Carolina does a super job with that trapping defense, throwing it on and off.
And you figure out on that floor right now, that's a rookie ball team.
There's Johnson. He's no rookie. 8 points for Frank.
You have Braddock, you have Perkins, and Doherty, and Pepper, and Worthy. Now, there's not a lot of playing time experience out there. They're a very young team.
Worthy's played only about 14, 15 games.
There's that triangle and 2. 3 fellas playing zone, 2 playing man-to-man.
Doherty from the perimeter. And the rebound pulled down by Morgan again. Boy, what a job Morgan's done. Fast break. Danny Young. First down. There's Doms hooking on the inside. And taken away by Doherty. Doherty spotted Braddock. Inside pass broken up by Rogers.
Sad pass. It should have been a bounce pass, if anything.
Wake Forest the other way now as we move inside the 3-minute mark of the first half. 2:40 to go. 14-point lead of the Deacons. Represents the biggest margin they've had. Morgan had a notion.
Good head fake, body fake. There's that bounce pass Wake's been using so effectively.
North Carolina is very conscious of that passing lane, and they're making every effort to try and cut it off because it has been very effective. Jimmy Black returns for North Carolina, point guard. He'll join Mike Pepper. Bob inside to Rogers, open.
You know, Jeff Mullins, the last guy I saw that could throw it up against the backboard that hard and get it to go on in. They say if you hit it in the square, it's got to go in the basket.
Loud is broken up by Dom. They trying to alley-oop to Perkins. Dom broken up. Here comes Wake Forest. Johnson fires and hits. 10 points and an 18-point lead by Wake Forest over North Carolina.
And this North Carolina team has beaten some good ball clubs this year.
Early in the telecast, Billy, you said this could be a very key game for Wake Forest for their confidence.
Well, they're the veteran team. They had to prove that they could come out and play well against another quality basketball team. And as Bones pointed out, North Carolina is a very young team in experience.
Wake Forest is going to call this timeout. 1:51 to go, and Carl Tasty wants to huddle up with his team here. He's got a big lead over North Carolina, the nation's 10th ranked team, 18 points.
This is one of the times that you need to be careful. Now, they got almost 2 minutes to play, and you can't tell me that Wake Forest is not fired up more than they probably have been in several years. You make some foolish mistakes at a time like this and let a team cut down 4 or 5 points, and that's a situation you should never let happen. I think the timeout was well called.
Why do you see the potential here? I know it's very early, Bill, but this team really looks solid.
Well, you remember Maryland last year when they got out of the box early, and you looked at their club and you say, hey, they don't have any weaknesses, and before we know it, they were leading the conference. I think Wake Forest falls in that same kind of category this year.
Those remarks were very prevalent last night, that Wake Forest could easily be another Maryland for 1981. Well, we'd like to remind you of the Virginia-Duke game Friday at 8 p.m. in Durham. If you have tickets, remember the time is 8 o'clock. Some of the tickets were printed at 9. It's actually 8. So if you're going to the game, I hope you enjoyed it. If not, join us. Our telecast begins at 8. And we'll get another season of ACC basketball underway. We'll be seeing Ralph Sampson, the NIT champion Virginia Cavaliers, against Duke, Gene Banks, Vince Taylor, Kenny Denard. And a team, by the way, that was beaten here tonight. North Carolina State won 3rd place this tournament, defeating Duke rather handily, 74-60.
You know, it's amazing, too, what one player going onto a ball club will do. Here we see what Frank Johnson's doing to change this Wake Forest team around. Duke, you take Jaminski off of that club, and tonight you'd never know it's the same club.
That's right. They were Final Four once, a final game once, and almost Final Four another time. Almost in ours. Johnson, the veteran, coming through, and the rebound, a foul off the rebound. It's going to be on
Glenn Mayers.
Wake Forest. There's Glenn Mayers, a young freshman, New York, who picks it up. He's from Cambria Heights, New York, 6'3". North Carolina had a close call last night. They survived a late scare by Duke and won 78-76. A couple of late free throws by the freshman Matt Doherty. While Wake Forest just breezed by NC State, winning by 30 points. James Worthy 1-1.
There's Morgan again. Sensational rebound.
38-20, 18-point lead.
You see Wake Forest trying to spread things out a little bit with Frank Johnson in the middle. A lot of experience.
Driving in, Johnson open. 12 first half points for Frank Johnson and a 20-point lead by Wake Forest, the biggest of the game. Wake Forest got another rout in the making here tonight. Budko, top of the circle.
That's the shot that I'm sure Carl Tacey wanted Carolina to take. A big basket for Budko to hit right there, because Carolina has to be patient now and not take bad shots.
And a four-corner spread of their own, Wake Forest. They got Frank Johnson in the middle, looking for the back door. There's Don from side, and a foul on the play. That follow-up shot by Morgan not going to count. The whistle came well ahead of that.
Now, this is just a clinic so far as I'm concerned, and it's we keep saying so many nice things about Wake Forest, and I think we need to remember, and I'm sure we do, that it is a young Carolina ball club.
Here's Frank Johnson again. Now he goes up. He realizes Budko's a shot blocker, so he looks to dump inside. Beautiful play. Worthy right there on the spot. He commits a foul. Now watch Morgan. Now that could have been a technical foul right there.
That's right, even with a dead ball.
That's right.
You hang on the rim, technical. They're not calling that as close, I don't think, Bill.
I think what you're finding, Jim, is an interpretation to use common sense in that particular play.
2 shots to check Downs. Downs will transfer from Oral Roberts University. Set out a year, came in and played spottily.
There is a case Frank Johnson noticed. Doherty ran over and got right in front of Dahms on the first shot of 2. Frank Johnson went down to the referee, said keep him out of there. And he just is in total control of this basketball game.
41-22, Wake Forest on top, 40 seconds to go in the first half. James Worthy firing it to Butko, trying for 2 in a row.
I'll say this on North Carolina, they are certainly being patient even though they're this far behind.
41-24, still have 30 seconds to go. Wake Forest, a 4-corner spread out here, spreading the North Carolina defense. And almost a steal, and they get it back to Johnson.
But Mares will learn not to get in that trap.
Oh, there's a great feed inside the Dahms, and out of bounds. It'll go to Wake Forest. They got the ball in there nicely on the backdoor to Dahms, who somehow missed the layup.
He takes too much motion to get the ball to the basket.
There's Frank Johnson again with a beautiful feed. All he had to do was protect that ball a little bit. There's Guy Morgan again following up the shot. How many offensive rebounds? That's a foul on Dobbs, as opposed to Wake Forest ball out of bounds.
They had 2 officials that differed in that call. One called a Wake Forest ball, the other called a foul on Chuck Dobbs. It's going to be a 1-and-1 here to Matt Doherty, who hit the clutch free throws last night that decided the victory for North Carolina over Duke. Some freshman player.
He's just freshman in name only.
Well, he hit the tie-breaking free throw with 52 seconds to go, and then he put in the winning shot with 12 seconds to go, and gets a couple here. He's 4 for 4 tonight. We still have 10 seconds to go. Wake Forest got time to get off a shot.
And they just want 1 right here. They want to occupy that clock up.
3 seconds. They got to shoot in a hurry, and it'll be Danny Young blocked by Black as the half ends, and that's it. So Wake Forest jumps to a big command here in the first half, and that's the end of the first half of play. With the score, Wake Forest 41, North Carolina 26. We'll be back in a moment with our halftime show.
The second half of this game is brought to you by...
Center jump here will be between Guy Morgan, number 35 for Wake Forest in the goal, and Pete Butko. Leaper for North Carolina. Tip is in the backcourt for North Carolina, so the Tar Heels control the start of the second half. Al Wood with a quick shot. Rebound tipped up by Doherty and pulled out by Morgan. Boy, he's been tough on the boards.
He had 8 in the first half, all good, solid rebounds. And what you're seeing in Doherty is he's moving into the backcourt now offensively, and he's playing the front court. He's playing a forward. There he is on Rogers.
Rogers rolling from that high post to get open. Rogers just a simple roll off the high post against his man and shot it over.
Bones said North Carolina's going to make a run. Now, I would really agree with that if it were not for Frank Johnson. He's been around a long time.
Look at that block by Downs, and we'll get a jump ball. Downs with a spectacular block on Worthy. Got to see it again.
This is a great fake by Worthy. He doesn't realize that Downs is coming right in behind him. Excellent block. Good call by the official.
Boy, that was a super perfect block. Now, here's a change from last year. They've gone back to the old jump ball rule. No more out-of-bounds possession.
That's about time. I thought that was a foolish rule if I've ever heard of one.
Bones, you never liked that rule,
Never.
not having a jump ball. Well, we got it again.
I knew they'd have my way.
Man-to-man by Wake Forest. Nobody guarding Wood for a while there, and they still don't have him.
And Wood senses that, drives right on in there. There's Doherty going underneath, tries to flip it up on the inside. Looked like he was trying to buy a foul. Wood driving on Rogers, fires over. 43-28, back to the 15-point halftime margin. There's a ball batted out of bounds by Wood. Wood really hustling, even though he's carrying 3 personal fouls. Might think he'd be in a little precarious spot because 4 fouls on him could hurt the North Carolina team cause, but he's there battling loose balls.
And of course, to keep the tempo up, North Carolina like to play man-to-man here to start the second half, which they're doing. And they're coming out with a lot of pressure.
They want to hem Frank Johnson down in that corner and not let him have the freedom of that midcourt.
Of course, he's played against this team before.
Oh, yes.
Their defense really gets active once you pick up your dribble. Johnson helping out, going to the loose ball, almost batted away. Johnson fighting those hands. Johnson gets free.
That's unreal.
That's 14 points for number 14, Frank Johnson, and it's 45-28, a 17-point lead for the Deacons.
That couldn't happen to Superman.
Jimmy Black just lets it set and rip. Rebound on the floor. Dobbs gets it away to Morgan. Wake Forest controls.
Good hustle. You notice how Frank Johnson let Jimmy Black have that shot. He's going to make Black prove he can make that shot from 18 feet.
Wake Forest keeps this up. They'll be bidding for a spot in the major polls for sure. They're undefeated with 3 straight wins. Dobbs beating inside. Stolen by Doherty. Here comes the brilliant freshman guard for North Carolina.
That was bad.
Al Wood tries by his man. Blocked by Morgan, but he's called for a foul. First foul on Guy Morgan. Caught the wrist, too, but he prevented the shot.
Guy Morgan is a very, very underrated basketball player. You ask any of the fellows that have to go up against him. Look at him. Times his jump perfectly. Got him probably a little bit with the chest.
Al Wood, who struggled with line the first set. Yes, Bones?
You remember last year, Morgan got off to a slow start, but he really finished well last year.
Now, that's 3 misses running tonight for Al Wood, the free throw line. Pure shooter. That's a mystery.
I was talking about him shooting it flat, Jim. His hands are going straight out at the basket as opposed to getting that arch on the ball going straight up in the air. Last year he had that same kind of problem. Got it straightened out, and of course is a great pure shooter.
45-29. Wake Forest with 16 points. Great bounce pass inside to Rogers. Boy, they got that passing lane going, and they just worked beautifully for them for 2 nights.
The key to all of it is the swing is fine, but the way Rogers pins his man and holds him down like a swivel chair.
You know, you've got to look at Guy Morgan, too, from a standpoint. He's been playing Worthy head up all night. James Worthy has 2 points. I'd consider him an All-American performer.
Look how they're posting Doherty on the inside low, and they just got another foul. And Alvis Rogers says, that on me? That'll be the 3rd one on him if it is.
Here's Frank Johnson once again going to make the play. Now, Dom's the guy that really committed the foul. He reached in there and grabbed Doherty pretty good, and that's what Carl Tacey wanted. He wanted the foul on Dom, so he's got 2 bookends. He can play at center with Johnstone.
I think it's going to go on Rogers. That'll be his 3rd.
I like Doherty's action. He's really getting in the ballgame.
Wood fires the inside. Here's Worthy's follow, and he is fouled by Morgan.
Well, now I think they're going to call this one on Dom.
Yep, they got that on Doms.
Morgan again, though, shows you how he times that leap. Ever see the play? Worthy going up. Look at that leap right on top of the ball.
That's 2 quick ones on Doms, and that's 4 on him. The previous foul also was on Doms and not on Rogers.
To give Carl Tacey some credit, what he's doing right here is keeping Jim Johnstone on the bench during that time. They let Doms pick up those fouls and keep Johnstone fresh and out of foul trouble.
North Carolina's just having a miserable night, I can tell you that.
At the free throw line especially, they're 2 for 4 in this half. And the first half, they were like 6 out of
6 out of 12.
6 out of 12. 47-30. There's Johnstone. Pass deflected, stolen by Butko. North Carolina creates the turnover. Now the transition. Doherty spots Worthy. Worthy held only 2 points in the first half. Picked up 3 now in the first grid after.
You notice how well Doherty's forcing the action. He really is the guy that wants the ball right now, just like he did last night. It's very impressive. 10 seconds.
10-second call on Johnson. The ball will go over to North Carolina. 10-second violation. You have to get the ball over the middle line, of course, within 10 seconds.
Look at Frank right there. He's saying, hey, it was my fault, fellas. Carl Tacey really upset. Dean was doing the counting down there. You know, he started off at 4, going 4, 5, 6, 7. He's a crafty coach.
This may go down as the clock game of all time. 47-32. A 15-point lead by Wake Forest. 16 minutes to go.
What Dean Smith would like to have, he'd like to go ahead and get this down inside 10 points if he could before the 12-minute mark.
Al Wood on the outside. And Worthy controls it to Doherty.
Now
Perkins is back in there.
This is their best lineup right here.
That's right.
Here goes Wood, feeding on the inside, broken up by Johnstone, pulled down by Rogers.
Overpassing.
Nice move by Jim Johnstone, though, to fill that lane. Jump shot up by Morgan. What a game he's playing. Both ends of the floor. 49-32. Wake stretches it back to 17 with 15 and a half minutes to go.
And they're in the zone. Going to force North Carolina to put that ball up from outside some.
Doherty's pass picked off by Rogers again. Doherty trying to go to his fellow freshman Sam Perkins. Rogers sinks that one. Cut right in there. Johnson penetrated, and he's fouled by Jimmy Black. Jimmy Black picks up personal foul number 3.
And that's what Dean Smith didn't want early in the game, knowing Frank Johnson had challenged Jimmy Black. If he got Black in foul trouble, there was nobody to replace him.
Well, Johnson already has 14 points. We have timeout. When we come back, Johnson will be on the line with his team up by 17.
The preppy look in.
Wake Forest picked up 2 more points since halftime. They led by 15, now at 17. Turnovers continue to be a factor. Look at that, 15 by North Carolina.
You know, Jim, if Wake Forest were to go on to win this game, one of the great trivia questions going to come up about 10 years from now. Say, remember a thing called the Big Four? Well, they played for 11 years.
Who won it the most
Who
times?
won it the most times, and who won it during the 1970s? Which team had the worst record in the Big Four about championships?
That's
Wake
right.
Forest would have the most, and Carolina would have the least. That'd be hard to believe.
Yep, that's true. Now, Duke would be tied with North Carolina at 2.
2, I guess. That's right.
49-32. Johnson picked up by Worthy.
Good play by
turn
Worthy.
about. Now, the turnovers are being created here more by the defensive play than by mistakes. Wood, baseline shot, deadly.
Here comes that run, Bones, you were talking about. Right about at this time, but North Carolina's going to have to make a move if they're going to do it tonight.
They're going to have to make it now. You're right.
49-34. There's the man that's sort of a stopper. That's Frank Morgan. Blocking that ball there. Frank Johnson.
You can't make a run with a guy doing things like that.
Frank Johnson is back. Had to sit out last year with an injury, but he has returned. Now 1-3-1 zone on the baseline. Down there is Kenny Young. Pass reflect. Oh, look at Morgan. Is he ready to play this game?
Now, one of the things, of course, going to that zone, you're going to have to watch out for a guy like Al Wood. Might not even be a bad time to play North Carolina in a box-and-one type defense because Wood's the guy going to be looking for the jump shot.
There he is. Jimmy Black for another shot.
He hesitated.
Tentative, and it'll go to Wake Forest.
You're exactly right, Jim. He hesitated on the jumper, and they're allowing Black to take that shot. They're just saying, go ahead, put it up there.
He didn't want to take it. That was the first thing.
You never felt that way, did you, Bones?
Never in my life. I was looking for feeders because I was a shooter.
Boy, look how Johnson can handle the pressure. Full court press. Johnson open. Danny Young. And there's Morgan.
Oh,
for the rebound, and he walks. Look at Morgan. Self-reproach. Disbelieving both he and his coach. But the ball goes to North Carolina. Boy, this is a hard-fought game.
You can believe that Carl Dacey wouldn't be quite so calm on that call if he weren't 17 points ahead.
51-34. Al Wood walks at the other end. And Dean Smith's going to stand up for that one. He's got his team. He wants them down pressing.
He wants pressure all over the court. And if it weren't for Frank Johnson, it'd probably be a very good strategy, but he's kind of going right through the pressure. New guard combination coming in, and Dean probably going to try to wear Frank Johnson down.
That's a push off by Johnson. That's a good call. Ball control foul by Johnson. That's the first one on him.
He pushed. Black made initial contact. Frank Johnson pushed him off. Black's going to take a little bit of a rest.
Back in the ball game now. Jimmy Braddock comes in at guard, and Mike Pepper's in. So a change for North Carolina at the backcourt. Pepper and Braddock.
There's that 1-3-1 defense again. Young on the baseline.
Perkins is in there again. This is Perkins.
They got to get the ball to their shooters.
Well, Wood's out of the ball game right now.
Braddock's a good shooter.
Pepper's
of course, a good shooter. They're the two perimeter shooters in there. This is Pepper. That's his spot. Mike Pepper. Last year came on as an outstanding shooter off the bench, and he just hit for his first basket there. 51-36. We're still right back at the halftime margin, though. 15 points. And we played over 7 minutes here in the second half. There goes Young. The side foul on the play.
Well, he has a lot of confidence for a youngster.
I'm just going to say that, Bill, for a freshman, he does not hesitate to take the shot. That'll be the third foul on Mike Pepper. Danny Young, chance for a three-point play.
Another North Carolina kid, staying right in the home state and playing very well.
He was Player of the Year in the Raleigh, North Carolina area last year. 6'3". It's not a bad-looking recruiting class that Carl Tacey's brought into Wake Forest. Danny Young, Clint Mayers, Anthony Teachy, whom we haven't seen tonight, and Scott Davis, who may be the best of the bunch, is in.
Teachy showed that he can play last night in these ball games. A good physical player.
54-36.
That zone defense is packed back in there, but it's still pretty aggressive.
That's Doherty, rebound by Morgan. Boy, he's been a bull on the boards.
It's something else.
Wake can score here. They go up by 20 points. Johnstone takes the shot.
It can't be that good. I know they're a good basketball team, but they're hitting everything they throw up. That was a tough shot.
Wake Forest had 20-point leads in both halves. 1-3-1 zone. North Carolina.
See, that zone has collapsed all the way back inside the foul line now, just forcing the jump shot.
Here's Johnson out in front, Pepper trailing, Johnson driving. And put up by Boyd. Watch it.
Good hustle by Guy Rogers, not going to take anything for granted. He stayed right with it, got the missed layup.
58-36, that's the biggest lead of the game for Wake Forest. 11 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Johnson almost created yet another turnover. Doherty, now Perkins, and fouled on the play by Morgan. Well, I'll tell you, Perkins is making some kind of plays in this game. That's 11 points for Perkins, and he could have a three-pointer here.
Morgan didn't like that call, but Perkins tough. Good feed by Doherty inside. Perkins goes right to the basket. The thing I like about him down around the hoop, Guy Morgan got him on the arm. The thing I love about him around the hoop is he never puts the ball on the floor. He occupies it, goes right to the basket, doesn't take a chance to get it thrown away.
And this is one of the things we've talked so many years about. Why put the ball on the floor? That gives the defense a chance to get back. And you're right, Billy. He does not put it on the floor.
Three-point play, 12-point lead. We're going to get a timeout in the action here. 11 and a half minutes. That's all remaining in this game. Wake Forest in command. Well, they got a lot to cheer by tonight, these Deacons do. And we'll tell you about more action coming up. I'd like to remind you about the Virginia-Duke game Friday night in Durham, and it's 8 o'clock. So if you have tickets that say otherwise, remember, the correct time is 8 o'clock. And if you're not going to the game, join us. Our telecast, 8 o'clock. We'll get underway another season of ACC basketball.
Here we see the play inside. Wake Forest making the steal. Frank Johnson going to head the other way. Johnstone just deflects it. Makes the good play. Excellent lead pass. Throws it out on the proper side to Frank Johnson. Good hustle coming down from behind with Pepper. Now you see Rogers staying right with it, taking nothing for granted, gets himself properly positioned to rebound, goes right after the ball. Good hustle. Nothing's going wrong for the Deeks tonight. I'd like to point out, too, for North Carolina, they've played away from home now, Georgetown, Arkansas, Duke, and Wake Forest. They're a young team. They won all of those ball games coming into this one. So this is not a day of doom for this team. This team's going to come on as the season goes on, but they're playing against a veteran club tonight that's playing real well.
No question. They won the Alaska shootout. They beat good teams. There goes Helms driving. Rebound off by Perkins.
Give North Carolina to mid-January, and they'll be tough to beat.
I tell you, Perkins and Doherty look like the ingredients here that Dean Smith needed. To blend right in with Al Wood and company. There goes Perkins on a roll. That almost went. Tipped up by Worthy. Twice. Up by Worthy, and a foul on the front. That was Worthy tapping it in. Foul by Morgan. 3 fouls on Morgan.
North Carolina starting to get some good rebounding position off the offensive boards. Now watch Worthy just bound up. It's almost like an exercise drill. Down, up, down, up. 4 times he went up in the air.
I guess you could say his broken leg maybe is mending, would you?
Yeah, that was 3 times he put it back.
58-42, 16 points. Not yet midway through the second half, so don't chalk this one up yet. Here goes Frank Johnson from the side. 18 points for Frank Johnson, leading scorer in the ballgame.
Coach, I can always remember you saying, don't give up defensively with the man that's got the ball, and that's what happened that time. He's the most important player in the court.
There goes Mike Pepper again, zeroing in. He's a deadly shooter when he gets time in the outside perimeter. 60-44.
Carolina's showing a lot of heart right now. They're still staying in there.
I wouldn't contain Frank. Try to challenge Frank Johnson. I'd just simply try to contain him. That's all. Because if you challenge him, he's going to beat you.
North Carolina comes back with Pete Butko and Matt Doherty, and Will Singleton's coming in to give Guy Morgan a rest. Hey, Morgan's played about the whole game.
I think that he's one of the most solid players on the club. You see how deep Wake Forest is. They come in with another quality veteran basketball player in Singleton.
Johnson open, way outside.
He was too open. That's the reason.
Another big rebound for Worth. There's Morgan getting a break. Here's Doherty on the break for North Carolina. Matt Doherty. And North Carolina now is pulled back within 14.
Wake Forest starting to get a little lax on defense.
Helms comes right back, gets the quick one. Wake Forest showing tremendous confidence in itself here. Every time North Carolina makes a move, they're right down to get a quick shot.
That's incredible. Frank Johnson realized that Will Singleton thought they were playing man-to-man, ran over and told him to get in the zone as he was running down the court. He really is a leader on the floor.
Johnson from 20 feet, and inside for Singleton, gets a hand on the ball, and he's fouled on the play.
I think Al Wood has reason to be upset with that call. He had his hands right on the ball.
Yeah, it looked like it just should have been continuing play, but Wood gets his 4th foul.
You see the play right here. Now, he's got his hands on the ball. Singleton's going down.
Number 4 on Wood, though. That's the way they'll go in the books.
That's right, and the call's made across the court.
3 team fouls against North Carolina in the second half. Another shooting here. Wake Forest.
Oh, a set play. Very nice.
To Johnson. Worked.
Set play. The first time I've seen him run that play. A double screen for Johnson. Threw the ball across court. Give Carl Casey a lot of credit on that one.
And Johnson hits 20 points here to make it 64-46. Butko, baseline Doherty.
You've got
Under Worthy, wide open, Worthy.
You still got to give a lot of the credit to the Wake Forest defense. I just believe that's as big a part as their offensive play tonight has been.
Still man-to-man, trapping all over. Frank Johnson recognizes, occupies the ball, and puts his team back in their half-court offense.
Johnson, of course, who worked very hard last year when he wasn't playing what he could to stay in shape since that time, but very dedicated. Lob pass intended inside, broken up. They wanted to go to Rogers. Pepper feeding to Doherty. Doherty to Wood. Rebound by Mike Helms for Wake Forest. 8 minutes, 25 seconds to go. And it's Wake Forest leading 64-48.
Now here you have Pepper playing against Frank Johnson. Pepper doesn't have that foot quickness to stay up with him as well as obviously a Jimmy Black. That's Helms' shot right over there.
They're almost taken away. It does hit Singleton out of bounds. Good hustle by James Worthy. Singleton lost the handle, wound up out of bounds. The ball hit him while he was out. 64-48, Wake Forest.
Morgan going back into the ball game. See if he takes out Rogers or Singleton. Still in the zone. 1-3-1. Helms running the baseline.
Pepper again. After hitting 2 straight misses. Rebound Rogers. Foul on the play by Perkins. Rogers is so strong that once he gets a rebound measured, you're not going to muscle him out. And Perkins tried to go up to get it away from him, and was not to be. We got another timeout here with 7:51 to go in the game. It is Wake Forest 64, North Carolina 48.
That's excellent rebounding position. There goes Guy Rogers up. Alvis
Rogers
up. Just excellent rebounding position. You know, that's a Freudian slip I had on him 2 years ago when he was a freshman. I call him Guy Rogers from that great player that played at Temple.
Well, I keep calling Guy Morgan Frank Morgan, as to go back to the old comedian. 64-48.
Now, wait a minute. The old comedian?
Frank Morgan, you don't remember him?
No, I don't.
Bones does.
You fellas go back a long way.
A lot more people know Guy Rogers than Frank Morgan, I'll tell you that.
Guy Rogers from Philadelphia.
Now, there you have a difference. There's Helms bringing the ball up as the point guard. That's what Wake Forest had to play with last year.
They're giving Johnson a rest.
That's right.
And Helms is a great shooter.
Excellent second guard, and it just shows you that bringing back one player makes every position a little bit stronger.
And Wake Forest maintains this command here of 18 points with 7:20 to go. 1-3-1 zone. Now we got Helms running the baseline. Doherty, good head fake. Rebound off by Morgan. Boy, how many rebounds has he had? So I must be in double figures easily.
Someone said a few minutes ago he played most of the game, and I'd say above the rim.
Rogers
thought he'd put that one up.
Yep, I did too. I think he saw Perkins, but he finds Johnstone on the inside.
I was surprised at that matchup. Perkins on Rogers, and Doherty was playing on Johnstone inside. He had him by about 3 inches.
You know that run I said I was talking about?
There's Perkins. The only trouble is, Bones, that Wake Forest is running right along with them.
That's true.
That run may be coming at Chapel Hill someday.
That's right. It'll come.
68-50. 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Still by
good
Black.
play.
Stolen away by Young. Black driving in. Foul on the play.
That was foolish.
That's a freshman mistake.
Frustration foul perhaps for Young. Danny Young, a freshman. Jimmy Black just picked his pocket. Gets his first basket.
Here's Jimmy Black, very quick, makes the play. It's going to go down right here. That's the time to let him alone and get in position to get your rebound. I think what happened to Danny Young that time, he just kind of got his feet stumbled up and went into Jimmy Black. Frank Johnson's going to be coming back into the ballgame.
It wasn't deliberate, that's for sure.
No, he just kind of tripped himself.
Tripped our cameraman along with him.
Didn't hurt him, he had protection.
Could be a three-point play here for Jimmy Black. He's come back from that automobile accident, as Bones mentioned earlier, was very nearly tragic. Now Jim Braddock returns at guard for North Carolina. Al Wood playing here with 4 fouls, full court press. Now they pull away, and Frank Johnson is back in there
with a little rest.
For the stretch drive, I guess, a little over 6 minutes to go. Walking on Johnson, or might have been called on Morgan.
No, I think it was called on Frank Johnson. See him down the sideline, maybe on his pull-up. Yep, sure did. Good call.
Absolutely. North Carolina score here. They get it back within 13. They trail by 22. Jimmy Braddock on the outside. Wake's forcing the outside shot. Here's the outlet pass. They got it to Frank Johnson.
Going to pull up.
Yep, a quick stop. Rebound off by Worthy. Quick one to Wood.
He's going to pull up.
He fires to Doherty, driving across. Rebound out by Morgan again.
We've seen a lot of great basketball tonight, but we've seen a lot of early season mistakes that you'll find in the early season.
68-53, that's the score. Wake Forest on top, 5.5 minutes remaining.
Carl Tacey wants a timeout. He wants to settle things down.
He's going to get it right here with 5.5 minutes to go in this game. Wake Forest calls timeout. Wake Forest has the lead by 15 big ones, 68-53. Just dazzled this crowd here for 2 nights.
There's Danny Young bringing the ball back outside. Gave Frank Johnson that little bit of rest that he needed. Jimmy Black staying down. Out to Helms. Rogers back to Helms. Just good team play. Just moving the ball around. A lot of confidence on the jump shot.
Full court pressure here by North Carolina. They're going to keep pressuring everybody. And they go inbounds to Alvis Rogers.
That timeout, I think, was called by Carl Tacey.
A bad pass that got by Frank Johnson. Goes out of bounds, and North Carolina creates a turnover.
Jim, what Carl Tacey, I'm sure, wanted that timeout for was he's got 5 minutes to go. He's got a good working margin, and I think he wanted that basket real badly to push it back up to 17, not get it down anywhere close to 10. He doesn't want to have to go into the stall. He'd like to play this game out.
Al Wood, there's the battle on the boards. Perkins draws the foul. Came close to a three-pointer.
It's unusual for a man to be able to go over the top of the fellows in front of him and get a rebound, but Perkins can do it because of those arms.
That's 5 fouls on Chuck Doms, who got 3 points tonight. Leaves the game. 5 minutes, 11 seconds to go.
He only had 3 points, but he got in a lot of minutes, and that's going to be very valuable for Carl Tacey because it lets Jim Johnstone sit down and get a rest. It also makes it tough on the other team in the fact they can't get Johnstone in foul trouble.
Here's the leading scorer for North Carolina this game, Sam Perkins, a freshman with 14, now 15 points. He'll be going for number 16 shortly. Only one other player in double figures for the Tar Heels is James Worthy with 10.
With 5 minutes to go, they'd like to get back in the offense. Rather than have to go to the stall, they want the offense.
5 minutes to go.
You don't want to start to hold it this early, that's for sure.
Nobody's coming to the ball.
A little bit of a very patient game being played by Wake Forest. They've got the lead.
Quite a fake by Helms.
Yeah, he fooled himself.
Boy, North Carolina keeps the pressure on you.
Good defense by North Carolina. Excellent defense.
Not giving up anything, but keeping pressure. Johnson from the outside. That breaks the strain a little bit.
He's
So
killed
hit
him.
that shot.
That's
Killed him all night long.
That's what Carl Tacey wanted prior to that timeout.
There goes Worthy across, and Perkins puts it up on the foul and draws the foul. Foul is going to be on Morgan, they're pointing to, I believe, and if so, that'll be his 4th.
If I'm not mistaken, he's had 4 fouls tonight, Jim, and every one had been in a blocking situation where he went up there and timed his leap. Now watch him. He got the ball, but he also came over with the body.
Sam Perkins on the line again.
North Carolina going to the offensive boards very well here.
They're going to start calling timeout after they score in a minute. Can't be long.
That's 4 straight free throws for Perkins. 5 out of 6 and 17 points. Having a big game, the young guy, in his first Big 4 tournament. 70-57. Oh, they got the margin down to 13 now with still over 4 minutes to go.
Johnson beats the double team all by himself.
Johnson looked like he might have got away with a walk on that one.
He skidded. Wake Forest has a double post down here, trying to get an easy basket, trying to get that layup.
Johnson takes the outside shot and tipped in by John Stone. Jim Johnstone, boy, that was a big foul.
Dean Smith really upset with that one because his team's playing excellent defense right here in the stretch.
Did not block off, and on this time it was costing Wood from the perimeter. There's Worthy to follow. He's right in there.
At the inside position.
12 points for James Worthy of Gastonia, 72-59. Now 3.5 minutes to go. Johnstone inside. Johnstone foul by Worthy. It's only the first foul on James Worthy.
He thought he had a good piece of that ball. That's an excellent feed by Alvis Rogers. Little hook pass in there. Excellent feed on the proper side. Boy, it looked like a pretty good block, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so.
That's where Johnstone needed a little left-hand hook. You got that in your book, in your repertoire. Makes you much stronger playing the post on that side. 2 shots to Johnstone.
I don't think Carl Tacey wants this guy to be too cute. He just wants him to be solid, take the good shot when he has it, keep everything clean in the lane, and make foul shots.
Well, now North Carolina's got a chance to pull back within 11 points. And 3:15 on the clock.
And they're doing it with great offensive rebounding and good sticky defense here down the stretch.
That's Perkins hooking inside. Sam Perkins.
Dean wanted them to call timeout, and they didn't do it.
Perkins is carrying the team right now in this bid. There's a collision backcourt. Charging on Johnson.
Good defense.
That turns the ball over to North Carolina. Don't go away. It leads only 11 points. It's been cut in half.
I think Wake Forest, here you'll see the play. Jimmy Black doing a good job moving his feet. Frank Johnson ran right over him. I think it was a good call. Now, I think right now Carl Tacey has to change his strategy to say, fellas, we wanted to run the offense and go ahead and look for the shot. But with 2:59 to go and Carolina closing in, it may be time to sit on that ball.
If they make a basket, they're going to call timeout, that's for sure.
They got all their timeouts remaining.
They need to get that ball to the good shooters.
Stolen away by Morgan. Who else?
Let's see if Carl Tacey goes 4 corners. I think he will.
Yep, he just gave the signal, Bill.
Yep.
Wants him to spread it out here for Frank Johnson.
Whole different ball game. You know, you try to stay in that offense, but if it's not working, you better use the clock.
Well, now comes the key to playing in the delay game. You must hit your free throws. Otherwise, the team could just foul you out of possessions.
Dean has just given the instructions to them that when they did score, to call timeout.
That was 6 team fouls against North Carolina, so be the bonus the rest of the way. Ball steal by Pepper, and a foul is going to be on the Helms.
That's a bad pass by Frank Johnson, throwing the ball cross-court bounce pass. Get you in trouble all the time.
And it puts a good shooter, Mike Pepper, on the line for the 1-and-1.
Watch this pass. Bounce pass. It doesn't have the zip to get over there. Good hustle by Pepper.
I don't know any more about how this game's going to come out than you fellas, but I can say one thing. North Carolina has made a run out of them, and they're after them right now.
Well, you expected that. Dean Smith doesn't have the great record, over 400 victories in less than 20 seasons.
We said these kids have won some big games. Georgetown, Arkansas, and Duke before they got here, in addition to the University of Alaska up at Anchorage. So these kids are used to winning.
72-62. This would put it inside the 10-point margin. That's it. 9-point lead now by Wake Forest with 2:25 to go. Zone press by North Carolina. But again, here you got the there's a pass thrown away by Johnson. Another turnover. And North Carolina can cut it to 7.
Some kind of comeback. Wake Forest very confused in this delay game. Good, there's 3 men trapping against 1. Obviously, some people have to be open.
Here comes James Worthy feeding under to Perkins. Perkins on the scores, cutting to 7 with 2 minutes to go. And North Carolina kills the clock. We got a game going. Don't go away. When we come back, that will be the score. 7-point lead by the Deacons, but the Tar Heels are coming.
Here comes the replay. Good play into Perkins. Boy, he reaches the ball well. We talked about him going right up as opposed to putting that ball on the floor, using the left hand. Foul afterwards by John Stone coming down in there. No call, but North Carolina has made a great rally here. And it looked like Wake Forest going to blow him totally out of the gymnasium. Jim, I want to go back to the point with 5:20 or so on the clock. Wake Forest had a 15-point lead, called timeout. Carl Tacey probably said, hey, let's keep going with our offense instead of slowing down the tempo. And from that point on, North Carolina's really made a run.
Now, there was Mike Pepper asking for help. I guess Frank Johnson, there's a pass blocked out of bounds by Doherty. 1:52 remaining. Still a 7-point lead by Wake Forest, but they once were in command by 22 points. Doherty now being replaced.
Danny Young will learn in time never to pick up the dribble in that area where he was standing right before coming over half court.
There's a smart call by Wake Forest. They got the 5-second count on. They'll give you timeout if they haven't counted past 3. And they gave Johnson the timeout. So there's timeout on the court. And this one brewing toward a tremendous finish. 7-point lead by Wake Forest. All right, the crowd loves it here. We're coming down to a great finish for the championship of the Big Four. We'd like to express our thanks to the athletic directors, coaches, and sports information directors from Duke University, North Carolina State University, and the University of North Carolina and Wake Forest University for their assistance in our coverage of the Big Four tournament. As you see, big Sam Perkins in action here for the Tar Heels. Our thanks also go to Jim Oshist, Joe Kidd, and all the staff of the Greensboro Coliseum, and to Bob Royster, our stage manager. Time back in, and there is a spot violation. That was a spot throw-in, a violation on the throw-in by Wake Forest. Although either that or the 10-second.
He said he went back court, Jim, catching the ball in the front court and jumping over.
So it's a turnover to North Carolina, though, at a critical stage here for Carl Tacey's team. They're the veteran team, and they're making the mistakes.
Credit Jimmy Black with a great defense on Frank Johnson on the step out that time to necessitate the second pass. Danny Young.
Yeah, there's the steal. That is Young. Danny Young, a freshman, makes a big steal. 74-65 with 1:32 to go. Al Wood for North Carolina. Rebound will come down to Jimmy Black. On the floor they go for a jump. 1:25 remaining. 9-point lead. Well, we're thinking about the Holly Farm player. It's going to be a tough choice. Boy, there have been some great plays here in this one. And we're going to be picking one player for you.
You know, Jim, another thing that's been important here in this comeback, and North Carolina has been sending 5 fellas in for rebounding. When you do that, obviously, you're susceptible to the fast break. Wake Forest hasn't been looking for that easy, cheap one.
Here it is, tip backcourt for North Carolina. Mike Pepper runs it down. North Carolina trailing by 9 with 1:20 remaining. Al Wood driving, and he's blocked and fouled by Rogers, who may get a technical.
He almost got it.
Frank
You know
Johnson
he
cut it off.
He
really
saved the
did.
technical by not allowing the guy to bring his arm down.
Yep.
There's no question he saved the tee right here. Watch the official.
Now, Rogers thought he was charged into.
I think
close.
Rogers got him with the arm. Now watch Frank Johnson. Oh, we won't see it. Frank Johnson ran from the outside.
We almost
and
saw
saved the technical.
we gave you all we had.
Well,
folks.
Frank Slington, our Superman in the truck, said, I gave you all I had, fans. You'll have to take the word of the poll out there.
Now, coming through in the clutch, Al Wood has been frustrated earlier in this game by free throwing ineptness. Missed his first 3, and now he's hit 2 in a row. These are big ones here. Only shot to Wood. Hit them both. 74-66. North Carolina's going to use a timeout to get reorganized. Nope,
They were doing, and that was a smart move right there, Jim, because Dean Smith had a man waiting to go in. That stopped the clock, set up the defense completely without using a timeout. Smart play.
There's Morgan, a gifted athlete, getting the ball across. Wide open man, and Morgan.
Johnstone had gone to the basket. They'd have had another dunk.
1:04 to go.
They're looking to sit on it now. You notice how they're not playing Johnstone down the corner. He's got to cheat a little bit. He's staying so far away from the basket. He's not going in for the layup.
Less than a minute to go. The foul's on Doherty. He just fouled Rogers from behind. Doherty, of course, just a freshman, and will learn as you go along that they might have given you that play in high school, but in college, 90% of the time, that's going to be called a foul, whether it is or not.
Well, they're going to call it. It doesn't make any difference. And like you say, 90% may be higher than that.
Rogers waiting to shoot his free throw, has 11 points tonight.
Dean Smith wants Jimmy Black to fire the ball up the court, force it up the court with a quick dribble any way he can.
Bonus shot coming for Rogers. These could be the final nails here for Wake Forest. 75-67, 8-point lead with 50 seconds to go.
Carl Tacey wants everybody off the line. He wants everybody back, preventing North Carolina from getting a violation in the lane, an offensive foul, or anything along those lines, and be back defensively. Good touch.
North Carolina moves the ball quickly. They want to use as little time as possible. Matt Doherty, a freshman timeout, North Carolina. Doherty hits the shot. North Carolina's executing this game plan on T, Bill and Bones, and they're giving it every shot here. 43 seconds. We're going to take a look at here some of the people who brought you tonight's excitement. We'll also remind you that all the news staffs down the line, all the stations standing by are the latest news. We're delaying those a little bit, but right after the game, most of the stations, at least news, will be coming your way. 43 seconds to go.
Jim, last Saturday night, I was out in Bowling Green, Kentucky, watching a game between Western Kentucky and Vanderbilt. And I think you know who the coach is at Vanderbilt, Dick Schmidt.
Yep.
His team was down by about 17 with 7 minutes to go, and he worked the clock beautifully, and his team executed well. and came back and beat Clem Haskins in what would have been a super win for Clem Haskins. It's his first year of coaching out there. It was almost the same kind of repeat of what we're seeing tonight.
Well, we'll never forget the famous game between Duke and North Carolina. North Carolina had an 8-point lead with 17 seconds to go to win the game.
Duke had the 8-point.
That's right. They had an 8-point lead. North Carolina won it.
Duke did never get it in bounds, I don't believe.
Now, that was Walter Davis took charge of that game, and he may have been one of the greatest players of all time out of this conference.
And they tell me he may be just the best pro player in the NBA today.
I would argue with that. Out of Charlotte's South Mecklenburg.
Somebody's going to break long for the long pass. Good job by Jimmy Black.
Now you can move around. You're not on that spot violation. Here's Frank Johnson always back there as they
Dean Smith wanted a back court, and only Frank Johnson's good hand saved it.
James Worthy, who can afford to foul, stops the clock at 33 seconds to go. And his team trailing by 7.
They had to foul.
Yep, good time to foul. You go ahead and try to make the steal in the backcourt. If it gets over and they get set up, you've got to foul now. 33 seconds to go, and take a chance that maybe they miss one.
Yeah, I think it'll be the 1-and-1. I don't think they're going to call an intentional foul here.
He was reaching.
Al Wood coming back in, replacing Mike Pepper. Wood's playing with 4 fouls. The clock, the most important element right now, though. 33 seconds. The clock and those 7 points separating the two teams. Wake Forest's been on top since the early going. They took the lead at 4-2 and haven't trailed since. Morgan.
Good shooting technique. Morgan just stayed with the shot. Didn't back off the line at all.
Got them both. 78-69. It's a 9-point lead.
Smart play by Wake Forest to pick up full court to prevent Black from getting down easily.
Make them use the clock. Al Wood moving, rebound, lost out with go to Wake Forest. 25 seconds to go now. Wake Forest close again.
They're going to try to go long.
Great play.
Try to go long.
Rogers, and here goes Johnson. Stops the ball. A player of the game. Anybody argue with that?
No, I would not.
Frank Johnson just created another havoc at the other end. And it's going to be put up by Doherty and blocked. Rebound by Johnstone.
Look out! Look out!
Rogers.
He wanted to flush that one.
80-69, 2 seconds. 82-69.
Got
and they call a technical foul.
Well, there's 3 seconds to go. I don't know who it was called on. Oh, I know what. This is going to be some call. Well, a foul was called, I think. Let's see if a foul was called. He called a technical for Duncan in a dead ball foul. I don't think that should be called at all. How would Rogers possibly know that the whistle had sounded?
They've given him the 2 points, Bill.
I don't know. We'll see.
69's on the board.
I don't know.
I don't really think he hung on the rim, but Sam Perkins is hurt. That's the most important thing right now.
Well, I'm wondering why he called the technical. If he called the technical for grabbing the rim, but he just flushed that one. He flushed that one.
Well, they got him for hanging on the rim. That's the official call.
I could have told you from the time he crossed half court he was going to dunk that ball, and I'm glad the rim is still up there.
Well, no way that could have been a dead ball technical, because Rogers could never have known that the whistle had sounded up to all this pandemonium. But that was some dunk by him, giving him 15 points on the night. It wraps it up for Wake Forest. 82-69 with just 3 seconds to go. And all our hopes are that Sam Perkins is not really hurt here. But Frank Johnson, 24 points, and he's the winner of the Holly Farms Most Valuable Player Award. Frank Johnson, what a game he played. He's also the most valuable player in this tournament, we're sure.
Look at him, he's getting those fans from Wake Forest ready. Jim, you were looking at their schedule. You tell me he doesn't have some leadership qualities, not only for the ball club, but he just has that charisma. There's Sam Perkins down the ground, another guy that's certain to lead his fans a long, long way before he gets out of North Carolina. I think he's got a bloody nose right now, and the officials wisely are staying right with it.
Wake Forest has a trip coming up to the Cable Clark Classic in San Francisco. And out there, they may run into Alabama, Old Dominion, or Santa Clara. The way they've played here, Bill, I think they will stack up pretty favorably with any of those teams.
Well, they'll certainly be favored.
Now, barring any major upset, now Clemson, they play, but they have them at home. They have to go to Duke, but they could go to the Virginia game January 28th with a perfect record, and that would be some meeting with Ralph Sam. But that's way, way in the future. And in this league, you never take anything for granted, right?
Yeah, Sam Perkins is still down, and I think he has quite a bit of bleeding, and I don't know if it's from the nose or from the mouth, but he's laying flat in his back right here.
I think that they got him to sit up for just a minute, and then it started back, and so they had him to stay down. They may bring out
well, I think
Mark Davis is out there working with him, the North Carolina trainer, and he seemed pretty alert, but he's hurt badly around the mouth. He's cut. And I would say that's a pretty good sign there. There's Frank Johnson, our player of the game. You want to congratulate Sam Perkins, the young freshman who is going to be some kind of player for North Carolina. Already is. 22 points, our leading scorer in this game. Just played beautifully under the clutch.
They're just announcing here the technical foul on Alvis Rogers for grasping the rim. And he says right now, probably those guys down there, if I had to do it over again, I'd grasp the rim again. But it is a very dangerous play, not only for himself, but everybody around him. Al Wood misses it, and that may be the story of his game tonight. He just really wasn't on the top of his game.
No, 9 points for Wood. That's just a little more than half his average. They'll let Wood take the shot here. The final one, he puts it away as the game is over. And Wake Forest has won its 4th Big Four championship, winning the final one over North Carolina. The final score, Wake Forest 82, North Carolina 71. This is Jim Packer for Billy and Bones saying goodbye.